ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download.
Check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, the #1 sports information program in America, the Breakfast Bankroll, with your host, the sports broker, Jeff Dawson.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the co-host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it is that time of the week for the Breakfast Bankroll with good friend and colleague, Mr. Scotty Webb, live from Tampa, as I'm live from Cape Cod, Mass. A soggy, dreary last day of this nor'easter. I will tell you, a little of a dud. Didn't get the high winds that we expected, but I think we're going to end up with about 2 inches of rain here. So if it was snow, it would have been 2 feet of snow. So deck the halls. A lot to talk about. I know Monday's our re-entry Monday. A lot happened last night with one of the strangest plays I've ever seen or witnessed in baseball. I'll talk to Scotty about that one. The runners are kind of stuck in no man's land. Is it a catch? Is it not a catch? Yada, yada, yada. But first and foremost, a shout out to our proud sponsors and partnerships. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play. Download the app. It is free. Travis, Zach, Guy, myself, Amber, Holly, Carol, Bucks, Alan, Matthew. The list is endless. Come on down. Enjoy. Join the community. I promise you, a lot of good learning tools there. A lot of helpful tickets, helpful odds, graphs, you name it, to help you understand exactly what's going on and how bad the sports books are really ripping you off. And of course, AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. Steaks, seafood, chops, appetizers, wine. Terry's got it all. Head on over to AtlantaSteaksAndSeafood.com. So without further ado, let's bring him in, Mr. Scotty Webb. What's up, champ?
Morning, Jeff. How are you?
I'm doing fine. A lot to go over. NFL, not for long. And just a perfect example. Listen, I've been saying this since day one. Goodell will never listen to me. Of course, you need 2 Monday night games. And here's why. Get rid of the Thursday night. Get rid of the play on Sunday, the rest on Monday, the walkthrough on Tuesday, and fly to your destination. It's very simple. You play on Sundays. You play 2 games on Monday, one at 7, one at 9, 9:30, whatever. And then in December, when they start their Saturday schedule, then you get Saturday, Sunday, and Mondays. But they won't listen to me. But the comedy is 2 dogs, 2 outright winners. The Bills, 2 weeks ago, 4-0, and the team to beat, not just in the AFC. People had them the #1 ranked in the NFL. Patriots come in and upset them. And now they come to Atlanta, and the problem with the Bills has been simple. They can't stop the run. And Bijan looked like Bijan. And the funny thing is, the Bills got away from what really makes their offense click, and James Cook in the first half. And I'll tell you a sad story about that one in a second. But the Falcons go on to upset the Bills. Now the Patriots, due to them beating the Bills, are both 4-2. The Patriots in first. And then in the other game, listen, no one No one, zero zip on social media. We're talking about the Bears. Winners of 2 in a row, coming off a bye week. That's all they remember was Jaden Daniels shaking up the rust, winning in L.A. 3 turnovers to none, a walk-off field goal. Moody, who couldn't kick one in San Fran, finds a way to kick 3 last night. 2 upset specials in the NFL. 4, excuse me. 2 upset specials in the NFL. Thoughts in the NFL last night, Scotty?
My thoughts are as typical NFL, right? Like I said yesterday, I can go over the games on paper on a draft and do pretty well in college football and have a pretty good edge on certain things. You do the same thing in the NFL and you get blown out. That's just the way it is. Stuff happens. Things don't go the way they're supposed to go, and I think that's why people like the NFL, right? You get upsets and you have crazy stuff happens. I guess the most amazing game to me was the latter of the two, the Bears game, and the reason I say that is because they really were required to have a late score to win the game, and they did. And I wouldn't have trusted the quarterback there for them, Caleb Williams, to get that done, even though most of that was rushing yards that came down there to win that game. I thought the turnover was really bad to put them in the position to win the game. It was a shotgun snap that Daniels kind of bobbled and was trying to hand it off, never really had it, and never really gave it off. And the running back's like, I'm just hand it to you, and it bounces off of his chest or belly or arm or whatever, and it falls on the ground, and the Bears get it. So. But they had to do what they had to do to get there, and they did, So interestingly enough, these teams, you can see it a little bit, So we watched Kansas City play, Detroit on Sunday night. Neither one of these two games were like that. Neither where you had lead offenses, good teams, good coaching, good players, nothing. So, it's kind of like when you bet on these MAC schools, and you're expecting the MAC schools to play like they're supposed to play. Well, they don't always do that. Just hindsight, looking at the Bowling Green game where I lost when it was 21-7 at halftime, and then it ended up being 28-21. They didn't score any more points, and they gave up a whole bunch and looked terrible. NFL's that way a little bit, especially with these, like what you call the middling teams. The middling teams are middling teams. They're not the greatest in the world. They got great players, but they're going to do silly stuff, and they're going to lose games they should win, and that's exactly what happened yesterday. And I don't know what's going on with Buffalo. I didn't watch a lot of that game. I was watching baseball, so. I flipped back and forth a little bit there, but I really didn't watch much of that game. But if you're going to allow somebody to run for over 100 yards and tear you up on Bijan Robinson running the football, and you can't stop it, then you're not going to win. The thing about the NFL that's kind of interesting is the real way you win in the NFL is you throw the football, and then when you get the lead, you run the ball. To a point where the other team can't get the ball back. And that's how you win. Now watch what the Chiefs do. That's exactly what they do. So if you can't stop the run, though, you're never going to get the ball back, and you're never going to be able to get back in a game. And I think that, once Buffalo got behind there, that's exactly what happened to them. They didn't get the ball, and they couldn't make the plays, and all of a sudden that game was over. And I was watching baseball.
I'm going to go to baseball now, and I'm going to start Seattle and Toronto. And I made the proclamation. I saw it. I saw a tweet. I replayed the tape in my head. I talked about Ortiz almost egging Guerrero on. And I'm going to go back to that for a second because I think it needs to be talked about here. And I'm talking about Toronto here. After they beat the Yankees They're popping champagne. There's a locker room scene with Guerrero getting drowned with champagne, and Ortiz egging Guerrero on, and then Guerrero's going, the Yankees lose, the Yankees lose. And there was some tweets that says, hey guys, you didn't just win the World Series. You just didn't win the ALCS. You got a whole nother round to go. Kind of sort of act like you've been there. Here comes a Seattle team after a 15-inning game. Pack your bags, kiss your wife, tell them we'll be back in 4 or 5 days. That game one is a loss. Is a loss because there's no way that you're going to regroup, go cross country. Your bullpen's in shambles. I mean, let's be real. You just played 15 innings. Somehow they find a way to win. So now yesterday must win for Toronto because it's 2-3-2. And Seattle puts up a field goal in the first. Toronto gets 2. But the offense, you're seeing this Seattle team that has been good to great most of the year. Now up 2-0, coming back up 3 games. Now, the key to Seattle, very simply, is don't read your press clippings. Let's keep it tight in the box because there's no way in holy hell you want to go back to Toronto. It's hard to sweep 3, but you're set up perfect to win 2 out of 3 at home, Scotty.
Yeah, well, we talked about it yesterday. Savage wasn't going to, I didn't expect him to do that good. He gives up 3 in the first inning. Wasn't really expecting, Toronto to bounce back with 2, even though they got there through an error. But, think about this. Seattle has starting pitching no matter what. I mean, they threw Bryce Miller in game 1, and then they threw, what's his name yesterday? And then they have Kirby, and they still have more guys lined up to still pitch, and Castillo, right? So they have pitchers. The Blue Jays don't. They threw Bassett and stuff last night as a relief pitcher, and I'm shocked that Bassett is not in the starting rotation for these guys. I mean, obviously they know their team better than I do, but still, they're not using their starting pitchers the way I thought they would. So they really don't have starting pitchers left. I mean, who's going to pitch for Toronto now? Gosman's out and Savage is out, and they threw a bullpen game to win the game against the Yankees, so they're going to start throwing bullpen games now again, and Lauer and those guys are going to be in the game, and you pitched last night some. So if you think about that, with the idea that the Blue Jays don't have a starting pitching kind of thing functioning, they've got Scherzer on the DL, and I don't think they trust the other guy anymore.
I think Max and Bassett, weren't they both added to the roster?
I think they are, but I mean, I think they must not trust the Cleveland guy, whatever his name is.
Oh, Bieber.
Yeah, they must not trust him that well. So anyway, I look at it and I sit here and I go, okay, well, think about it. The Cubs, they didn't really have good pitching, right? They had a couple of they had Boyd and Monaga. We all knew what Monaga was going to be like, or at least I knew what Monaga was going to be like, and they didn't have pitching to get them through. And then you look at the other teams that are knocked out, right? Those teams have no pitching either. So you start to think about how these teams got to where they are and where they go for 160 games, and then they put this kind of a product in play for the playoffs. It's not going to work. You're going to be behind, and there's nobody that's got better pitching than the Dodgers. Not nobody. And you saw it on display last night with Blake Snell. Yamamoto got beat up in one of those games, but Yamamoto's not going to get beat up every game he pitches. So, and Ohtani hasn't even done his great stuff yet on the mound. So I'm expecting Glasnow pitched awesome for them as a starting pitcher. So I think any of these teams that have starting pitching edges are going to be good. And in Seattle, you're going to have Castillo, who pitches better at home than he does on the road. And you're going to have Kirby, and you're going to be favored because your pitchers are better than their pitchers. And then offensively, your offense has been better than the Toronto offense. So why wouldn't they just, they could sweep this series. They're really good. They could go out there and bink, it's over. And then you got a Seattle Dodgers World Series, which is what it's going to look like anyway, I think. And if Seattle is the best team in the American League coming out to play, then they earned it, they deserve it, all that stuff. They're going to get whitewashed. I mean, they're just the Dodgers have the pitching to shut down anybody's offense, and they have the offense to hit any pitching. So I think the Dodgers win this thing pretty comfortably, actually.
Well, let's go to the Dodgers because they do win 2-1. I'm going to get to the end of the game.
Sasaki did good, didn't he?
Well, I'm going to get to that. But bases loaded, 1 out, and Muncy hits one to the wall. Goes off the outfielder's glove, off the yellow home run mark, and then he catches it. So then he hits the relay, who then throws to home, and Tosker is forced out at home, and then the catcher runs to third, and they have another force out. Never seen anything like it. You're within a whisker of a grand slam. And so the ball goes off the glove, hits the wall, then he catches it. So again, the ball is live. But my point is, at worst, if the runner on second and the runner on first go halfway, they got to go back to the bags and initially tag up because they don't know if it's caught or not. But Tosker's standing on third the whole time because he's going to score with a ball hit to the wall. Yet he gets forced at home. I don't understand that. I think it went 8-6-2-2 was the final score there. And they don't score. But my point is, Blake Snell, last 3 starts has been Sandy Koufax, Pedro, whatever you want to call him, he has just been phenomenal. And all the naysayers, what is Roberts doing pulling him out? If you watch Snell walk off the mound, he knew he was going 8 and only 8. Roki had been unhittable. That was the right move. The first time he showed chinks in his armor, give him today off. He'll be fine. Bring him back to L.A. They're going to need him. They're going to need Snell again. So for all the naysayers that Roberts pulled, no, that was the right move. They were fortunate. A couple walks. I think they actually walked the bases loaded. My point is, Dodgers up 1-0. And right now in the series, they have now ballooned to -450 and plus 360. Yamamoto versus Peralta. Peralta has not looked that good. But I will tell you this. I thought the number opened up short at -126, now 124, a little leaking towards the Brewers. Must win, obviously, for the Brewers. Thoughts on last night's game, Scotty?
Yeah, I thought that for what the Brewers tried to do pitching wise, they stayed in the game. I mean, it was 1-0 until the 8th inning. Dodgers added on a run, which could have been more, but they didn't. They only got 1, so that was good for them. I thought that crazy play was enough, that really kept the Brewers in the game early because they could have been behind, 2, 3, 4 runs, and then all of a sudden, trying to get to Snell with 3 or 4 runs is really impossible. I thought Sasaki is, he's not a foregone conclusion in my mind, because he's not done it before. He's not been in this role. He's one of these guys that, he's got good stuff, and they haven't seen him much because he was in the minor leagues a lot because they sent him down. So I think when you think about what they're doing there, they're doing it the right way. I mean, I was surprised they hung with him as long as they did. He got the first batter out, and then he was having struggles with the strike zone again. So it is good. It's, hey PB, how you doing? Says he reposted the stream. Thank you very much appreciated. We need a lot of people to do that. So as it kind of goes, right? You're sitting there and you're looking at it, and you watch the Dodgers play. When was the last time Freddie Freeman was showed up? Well, he hadn't been showing up. So it was good to see him turn things around. Shohei Ohtani hasn't got a hit in forever. So when you sit there and you think about the Dodgers, they're not playing as the best that they can, and they're still beating these teams. So I just think you look at it and go, who's going to beat them, and how are they going to get beat? Seattle, of the teams, Seattle probably has, I guess, some power to hang with them a little bit, and they got starting pitching that at least they can put a starting pitcher out there every day, and that'll at least make for a series. And I don't know. I would have much rather seen Yankees or Red Sox though, just because I think the firepower for both of those teams, the star power on both of those teams, is much better, and they would have been more competitive, but it didn't work out that way. So it is what it is. You get what you get.
Football Tuesday, the dust is settled. Last week behind us. We talked yesterday, NFL and the college card. We got college football starting tonight, with New Mexico State, Liberty, Arkansas State, South Alabama, Florida International, Western Kentucky on Wednesday, Delaware, Jackson State, UTEP, Sam Houston State. Now, we will be off tomorrow, back Thursday and Friday. Of those 5 games, is there a game of those 5 that you would want to break down on Game on Paper?
Well, yes and no. We can look at the Western Kentucky game. And the reason I say yes and no is I flagged this as one I wanted to bet. This is, if I go back up to my thing here. I like Western Kentucky here. I like them a lot in this spot. The problem is, look what the line opened and look what it is today. So it opened at 8.5. It's 10. And I was watching Brad Powers, and he was talking about this particular game, and he said, no, what happened, Dr. Bob released Western Kentucky, and because he's got enough people there, they went and bet it and moved the numbers. So if you can very obviously see Western Kentucky is all green and Florida International is all purple. This is one of those spots where, even though Western Kentucky's played like the 134th strength of schedule out there, which is almost dead last. Florida International is 105th, so it's kind of even, really. It's pretty close. So you don't have to discredit the numbers that much. The biggest thing the first thing I do when I look at it is I take away. I look at EPA per drive, and on offense, it's 0.61 positive for Western Kentucky. And it's on defense for FIU, it's 0.10 positive. So that means it adds to their offense. They're not stopping them. And then on the defensive side for Western Kentucky versus the offense of FIU is negative 0.28. So that means that they're not gaining yards on an efficient basis. They're actually worse. And then you look at the defense for Western Kentucky, and they're minus 0.24. So that adds to that effect. So you have an offense in Western Kentucky that's not going to get slowed down either much, if at all. And then you have an offense for FIU that will. So it doesn't look to be a very good circumstance and a good spot here for FIU in this game. And when I played it out and ran the model through, we came up with a 34-22 win. So that's only 12. That's 12 points, but the number's now 10. I don't necessarily like to follow steam, and I missed the opportunity to get it below 10 which is what I was going to do. It's on my spreadsheet that we have access to, but it's I think value wise, if you like the predicted score, that's great, but it's a predicted score. It still says FIU is going to score 22 points, which I don't see based off of the scenario game here. I think that Western Kentucky blows them out. But anyway, that being said, that was the game that I was going to bet. That was my flagged game for tonight. And the problem that I'm running into is I think that it's not. This happens, and it happened to me twice because on Friday I liked Nebraska against Minnesota at -6.5. Anything under 7 was good for me in that spot. Now the damn game's 9. So that's another one of those spots where you look at breaking this up, and you can kind of look at it, and you can see that this is a little more competitive. You got green and green there a little bit, but there's a big difference here. Net EPA per play for Nebraska, they rank 26 in the country, 0.21 positive, and Minnesota 61st at 0.08. And you can see all the green there. Success rate's good. Average yards percentage is great, not just good. That's top 10 for Nebraska, and yards per play is 14th. So the matchup really looks like this. Minnesota's offense is negative 0.4 per drive. They rank 89th, and then they're going to go against a defense that's negative 0.35. So 38. So Nebraska's defense is not going to give up much in this game. And then on the other side, you have an offense for Nebraska, 0.77 to the good against a defense that's pretty good at -0.45. But so they still outdo that defense. So that means it's going to be slow going for Nebraska, but they're going to be going. They're going to score points. They're going to score. I don't know how many points. What did I have on the model in that game? Let's see. So this game I had come out, and it was really tight to the number. 27-20 was the outcome of that game for Nebraska. So that's why I wanted to make sure I got it under the touchdown, and now we're over the touchdown, so I can't bet this game. So I'm not, I didn't like that. And then I looked at the Miami game. That's a pretty tough one. Miami, the model and the stuff comes out 35-20. So that's 15 points, in the spread now I think it's 13.5. So if you look at Miami and you do the same thing, you slide that down, because what you're going to run into in this game is two really good defenses. The offense for Louisville is not very good. They are 75th, and the defense for Miami is awesome. So the defense for Miami overwhelms this offense. They just they're going to be lucky to get 10 points, 14 points in this game. And then when you look at what the offense can do for Miami, Miami's ranked 28th on offense per drive, but the defense is ranked 4th at -1. That their defense is really good too. So I think that comes down to a matter of kind of outlasting the Louisville team and their offense, putting them in bad spots. You can see that on offense, their average down and distance is that purple. They're 121. That means they don't get a good push on first and second down. They're going to play 3rd and 8. They're going to be behind the line a lot, the chains, and then that's going to open up everything for the pass rush for the defense, and I think that's a big deal. And starting field position, you can see where the Louisville on defense shows purple at 108. That's exactly because they can't move the football, and their first down percentages are going to be low in this game, and I think that Miami at least will be able to move the ball. So I think it's pretty close to the spread. I think this is probably pretty close to the right number. I think if you wanted to bet it, if you bet it under 14, you're probably okay. Anything over 14, I would pass on in that particular game. And Jeff, I don't know that like if you look at Tulsa and East Carolina, which I know is a Thursday game, you're going to see a ton of green against a ton of purple, and that's because Tulsa is one of the worst teams in college football. They're not the worst, but one of the worst. Their offense ranks 124 out of 130 some schools, and they're going to face a defense that's 27. Good luck. But the number in that game is what that balance comes out to. Tulsa is minus 17 points or something like that. So I have a harder time with East Carolina. I think is a good team to bet on as an underdog. But when you're going to go ask them to cover 17 points, I don't think they're used to doing that. Even though that the matchup is in their advantage here, the number is saying, hey, they got to put up the results here. So I'm not betting that game. I still think that in my head I'm trying to. Says Matt wants to know any thoughts on the Liberty and New Mexico game tonight. Yeah, let's look at that one. I do have thoughts on that one. The New Mexico State and Liberty game. So the first thing to note here is, and it's not going to be on this sheet. This is something I do on the side to add to this. New Mexico State, and I made a note, a different note, that is most likely to stay within the 10.5. I think it's 10 probably now, though. New Mexico State yards per point margin ranks 45th, which means that no matter what, their efficiency is high. So they don't get a lot of yards, or even if they do get a lot of yards, they get a lot of points. If they don't get a lot of yards, the points come with the yards they do make. And Liberty is 123 in that regard, so they're not very efficient. So that's the first stage of how I go and start looking at what teams to bet on and ones not to. So I would be more willing to bet on New Mexico State here for that reason and one of those reasons. But the strength of schedule is 135 for New Mexico State. That's one of the worst ones, meaning that they haven't played anybody. And Liberty, though, is only 108, so it's not that bad. But here's where we'll break the game down in a second. But where I run into a problem in this game is the turnover margin, which isn't on this sheet either. The turnover margin for New Mexico State is -2. That's 2 per game. That's not just 2. That's 2 per game. So that's one of the worst in college football. And Liberty is -0.4, which is a little less than average, right? So if New Mexico turns the ball over twice, it's very unlikely they're going to stay within the 10 points. So they need to run a clean game here, and they really haven't shown the ability to do that yet. Their quarterback QBR is 133, so that starts to throw up some flags. But the deal here is both of these teams are going to play decent defense. Both of these teams are going to struggle on offense. So offensively for Liberty, they are -0.41 offense per drive, ranks 111 against a good defense. It's -43. So theoretically, that's -84 for Liberty when they're on offense. The other side, you have -46 for New Mexico State. They rank 114th, and we just said their quarterback was 133rd, so that doesn't surprise me. And they're going to go against the 51st defense, which is -20, which is -66. So this is a low-scoring game. So instead of looking at it from a perspective of the 10 points, maybe you look at the total, and that's kind of what I was looking at, Jeff. I think this game might stay under 46.5 in the game. Kenny came out and he says He says 28-14, which is what, 42? And Bill Conley has it 28-20, which is 48, which is close. So both of them kind of are also different on, who covers the line and who doesn't at the 10.5 number. I don't. This isn't the Liberty team of old, where Kurt Signetti ran at Liberty and he took those guys, and those guys are in Indiana. So all those guys are gone. So these are new guys and new players and stuff. So they're not the same group that was there for the last several years. That's really good. These guys are not nearly as good, and I think the results show that. So it became a no play for me, and I think I would bet New Mexico State side if those turnovers didn't show up the way they are. So I don't feel good about that either. So to be honest, so from Tuesday to Friday, I looked at a lot of stuff. I had 2 plays that I was going to go with. Western Kentucky tonight, but they're now -10. I think the value's gone. And I was going to bet on Nebraska at -6.5 below the 7, and they're now 9. So I think the value's gone there too. So I know that's not what everybody wants to hear, but that's what happened.
All right, before we wrap up here, I want to thank Matt. I want to thank, obviously, PB for retweeting the show. Questions, more questions. That's what we're here. That's what we're hoping to do here, guys, obviously. But I have to ask you this question. It's kind of mind-boggling to me. And when I get the mind-boggling, I'm usually have to figure out why. And so I'm going to ask you the why. The Bucks. Hard-fought victory at home to the 49ers. They've been road warriors this year, 3-0 on the road. All 3 games, Baker has come from the depths of loss to walk them off. Abuka injured. He will be out. Evans and Godwin have been out. Bucky Irving is out. Detroit coming off the Sunday night loss to the Chiefs, now back home, and this game is scheduled for 7 o'clock on Monday. Okay, opening line Detroit 5.5, and I'm saying with all these injuries, Detroit we know is a different beast at home versus the road. 52.5 was the under/over. I'm like, shit, this opened up at 5.5, and a lot of times that 5.5 number is the books saying, here, I'm throwing out that number, let you guys fight it out. I'm saying this is going to go to 6.5 due to potentially the 4th, 5th, and 6th string wide receivers starting for your Bucks. It went the exact opposite. It went straight to 4.5. The shops came in, pounded 5.5, pounded 5, and it's down to 4.5 in most shops. Scotty, what am I missing here?
Well, let me pull up. So the last game. Whoops, that's the wrong place. The last game that there we go. Now I'm finally in the right spot. So the last game that Kansas City played, right, was against the Lions. And if we look at the data from that game, what we're going to run into and what we should run into is the Chiefs passing EPA per play is green 0.45. They were able to run the ball. They were good on early downs. They were great on 3rd and 4th downs. And where the Lions ran into trouble was they weren't good running the football. And secondly, they didn't pass the ball as well as the Chiefs did. And then they weren't that good on early running plays, but they were terrible on 3rd and 4th down. So why would that be the case? Well, that's because their defense is all hurt. They played all backups in the secondary. So what can Tampa Bay do? Well, Tampa Bay can throw the ball even without the guys that we talked about that weren't there. They just proved that they could do it against the 49ers. So I think what you got to try to weigh out and balance is who's hurt worse? I mean, it's kind of what you got to look at, and you saw, I think, a line move that a lot of people said, well, Tampa Bay proved that they could do it with their injuries, and Detroit proved they couldn't. So yes, I do think there's a home field edge that I like there. But I also look at it and go, well, they couldn't run the ball against Kansas City. That's a problem, because that's how you got to be able to run the ball a little bit, and you're going to have to be able to run the ball a little bit against Tampa Bay too. So not that Tampa Bay's got the greatest defense in the world. That's not what I'm suggesting, but I am suggesting that it does require somewhat of a little bit of a balance. So I expect a lot of points. I think that this matches up where Tampa Bay's able to move the ball, and certainly I think Detroit's offense is going to move the ball. I didn't think that they used St. Brown that well in that matchup, and maybe they just had a guy that took him away. I don't know. I don't think Tampa Bay really has that kind of a matchup at that guy in the back of their defense that can take a guy away. But they've got a pretty good front seven, and they've got pretty good linebackers still. Levante David's making play after play after play if you watch them. And they got some guys up front that can stop the run, and they've been putting pressure on the quarterback. So I think it's an interesting matchup. I think that you're spot on with the idea of, hey, they threw it out there to see which way it would go. I think that when you think the NFL, and it's about offense and defensive line, and when I graded these out last week, and that's not this week, so I don't have those numbers yet, but let's look at the Detroit's offensive line. They ranked 10th in yards before carry. They ranked 16th in pressure rate, which is average, and their pass block win rate was 13th. Tampa Bay, his offensive line's terrible when it comes to that. 24th in yards before carry, 18th in pressure rate allowed. Pass block rate was 25th. So that tells me that Detroit's probably going to be able to put pressure on the quarterback and be able to stop the run. Makes the Tampa Bay all one-dimensional, is what it looks like. And then, the difference is Tampa Bay blitzes at a real high rate, putting pressure on the quarterback at a high rate. And Detroit, they don't blitz that often. But what's surprising to me about Detroit, their defensive line gets a grade of 28 out of 32 teams in pass rush win rate, meaning that they beat their guy. So the way that they got to put pressure on the quarterback is through the blitz. So if they're blitzing, and I didn't think they blitzed a whole lot against Kansas City because they were trying to protect the back end. They were playing zone, behind them, so that that protects those guys. So that takes a little bit of the aggressiveness out of what they can do. So we'll see how it goes. I think you're going to have a good matchup here of two pretty good offenses. Tampa Bay's offense is pretty good, even though they're banged up. And I think that Detroit's is going to be good as what they can do. So they'll be as good as they can go, which is probably the advantage in the game will be is that they're less hurt on offense, be able to move the ball better. Didn't these two teams play there last year, and didn't they blow them out last year? I don't remember. I think Detroit blew out Tampa Bay in Detroit last year.
I think if my memory serves me correct, they did. It's just kind of a strange spot because there is a difference of Detroit at home, on the road. They played Sunday night, but they're giving them a Monday night spot. I thought they'd flock to the Lions in a good bounce back spot. But again, this Tampa team has been road warriors, 3-0. If my memory serves me correct, opening day, walk off in Atlanta, a game that they shouldn't have won, but they did. And then they come back on a Monday night and they dominated Houston. And then they went into Seattle a couple weeks ago and kind of boat raced Seattle there. Closing thoughts, sir.
I feel bad that I don't really have a whole lot to give out in terms of plays, but I will tell you this: I'm going to bet Oklahoma. If you want to play on Saturday, Oklahoma is -5.5. Um, I've got the stuff that I worked on there, and let me get that up for you for just a second. Oklahoma against South Carolina, and I've got it more like 24-10, Oklahoma. So I'm going to take them against South Carolina. Again, this is going to be one of those where you have two good defenses, but Oklahoma's is the number one defense. So there's a big difference there. And South Carolina's offense isn't that good, and Oklahoma's offense is at least average. So I think you're going to see enough to get the job done to cover the number. So I am definitely going to be on that one, especially before these damn syndicates start releasing these damn plays and bet me out of my shit. Makes me mad that I lost two opportunities before Saturday. So that's one that I was looking at. There's a couple other spots. I'm not sold on Vanderbilt just yet against LSU. I'm looking at that game. I think if I could find a get anything 3 or above for LSU, I'd probably take it. It's 2.5 now, but I'm not going to take it at that number. And the other one that I was looking at too, just Old Dominion plays James Madison, and I know these aren't the greatest names in the world of schools, but both of these teams have been really good. Old Dominion's really good. And James Madison is a 2-point favorite. Old Dominion lost last week to Marshall, kind of got blown out in that game. But I think if and it didn't happen this way, but if Old Dominion would have won that game, I think Old Dominion would be the favorite in this game. So I think there's a little value there. Now I vetted the game out and I looked at it, and I'm not betting it. But this is one of Brad Powers' things. He really likes Old Dominion in this spot just because the strength of schedule for Old Dominion means that they only allowed Indiana 27 points. They played Indiana. It was 27-14. They got beat. So think about that when you're thinking about they're now going to play James Madison, right? So, but they gave up 40 points to, and this is the counter argument. They gave up over 40 points to Marshall. So there you go, right? It's kind of a weird world we live in when it comes to that kind of stuff. But Old Dominion was one of the ones that he liked. I can't get there. When you vet it out and model it out, says James Madison's going to win by a field goal. So I can't be betting that spot. But anyway, food for thought. I've got some stuff that I think we're going to be able to talk about on Thursday. Some other games to get involved in, and probably obviously bigger name games. I said Oklahoma, that's one of them. So as I kind of get through more and more of this, I went through quite a bit of it, thinking I was going to have a lot of spots. And I'm not finding a lot of spots right now. So see how it goes.
Again, thanks to PB, thanks to Matt, thanks to all the love and support from the Wager Wire community. We're looking to grow. We're going to take this right through the new year, of course, get you through the college bowl games. We're going to get you through the NFL playoffs, and then Scotty will go out to pasture as he's working on his baseball stuff, and we'll be doing baseball right through the year, hopefully, as well. Myself and Andrew McGinnis will be back at 10:15. Going to talk some Jays, talk some NHL, some CFL there, leave the notifications on there. Congrats to Pats Nation. It's been a long wait, about 5 years, but the Patriots currently 4-2 tied with the Bills, and we are 1-0 against the Bills. So your New England Patriots are now in first place in the AFC. Anyone watching and listening, you might want to add some Kansas City Chiefs to your portfolio. In regards to winning the AFC, winning the Super Bowl. You want to add some Patrick Mahomes MVPs. The return of Racey Rice this week. So he's a full set of arsenal there. Shout out. Thanks, guys. Have a great day. Go Pats. Thank you again, PB. Thank you as always. As the Ravens limp to the bye week. They'll have Lamar back week 7. They're not out, guys. I don't believe in the 4-1 Steelers. I will tell you this. No one's talking about this, by the way. Go check the Steelers at 4-1, 5-1. What if? No, they're 4-1. They're the bye week. They're 4-1, and your Ravens are 1-5. And go check the odds where you can get plus money on the Ravens to win the division. But I would go check Ravens to make the playoffs because there's something in the division no one's talking about. Pittsburgh 4-1, 4-1. Yep, they had their bye week. 1-0 in the division. The Ravens 1-5, 1-0 in the division. Okay, so they still got to play the Steelers twice, guys. The Bengals are dead. The Browns are dead. Okay, so just keep an eye on that there. That's number 1. Number 2, on the Patriots. Everyone running to the window. Pats -7. The Vrabel revenge game. Well, there's 2 things against them this week. 1, the Titans fired their coach. So you usually get that little bump from the new coach. Everyone now is on red alert because now everyone's playing for their jobs for next year. That's number 1. Number 2, it's the 3rd straight road game for the Patriots. They won in Buffalo. They just won in New Orleans. And, oh, by the way, now they got to go to Tennessee. So just the line is up to 7. So just be careful there. Don't go run to the window. Don't get your duck boats and parades, Pats Nations. You're going to win the AFC East. You're going to have a bye. This is not back where the Brady and Bill era, okay? We got some growth to go there, but things are moving in the right direction. Yes, we found our quarterback with Drake May. My headliner, Bills lose, Patriots in first, May, M-A-Y-E, this be possible. So, anyways, guys, baseball today, little money trickling in on the Brewers, must-win spot, ECSI VIPs, sitting in the catbird seat. It doesn't mean squadoosh. We had Seattle to win the American League. We have Seattle to beat the Dodgers in exacta at like plus 1925. And we have the Dodgers to beat the Seattle in an exacta plus 1350. So long way to go. But it'd be nice for the Dodgers and Yamamoto to find a way to win today, to get up 2-0, to come back to LA up 2-0 like Seattle. But we got a long way to go. So myself and Scotty will be back Thursday and Friday, 9 a.m., 9:15-ish, to talk in pocket games. The brain just froze for a second, so we'll give out more releases there. You got football tonight, you got some MLB tonight, and of course you got some NHL. So from myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports, and best of one and only Scotty Webb at Webby20MLB. Wish everyone a blessed morning. Go grab yourself a coffee and a bagel. I'll be back in about 15-20 minutes. Stay tuned.